really just to, this is informational, this is not the public hearing, where you'll have an opportunity, again, people will get notice about when the planning board actually takes up this special permit. So tonight we have our principal planner, Michelle Romero, so grateful to have you here. She is not gonna be able to speak at all specifically about this project, because it is something that is pending at the planning board, but she can kind of, when we have questions about processes and other things and zoning and all those other things, kind of be able to kind of guide us through that. We also have two city councilors at large, Councilors Di Maria, and Councilor Spatafora, who was behind me a minute ago. And from the school committee, we have Michael Drummy, who is my partner in crime at Ward 1. So I'm going to introduce Tom Callahan. So really, and he'll talk just about and introduce some of the principal planners, the developers, and about what the project's all about. So it's just really more of a question and answer. It's not a like, I'm for or I'm against and all that kind of stuff. Again, it's really informational, but I like to say that in my ward, I'd like to, make sure that people are informed. We also have Alex from Senator Lewis's office, so we're grateful to have him here. And so we're going to introduce Tom. Thank you.
My name is Tom Callahan. I'm the attorney for EA Fish, the developer of this site. EA Fish has been in the community here in Malden, working through this project for about a year now, I think at this point, trying to get feedback from everyone involved, particularly in city government, as to what we could do with this site. The site, as I think maybe most of you know, is the Ryan Amusement Bowling Alley in the Salaney property. The Salaneys do have that little building between the bowling alley and the parking lot, but it's that whole piece from the parking lot through the Salaney building to the alleyway where the bowling alley ends. Also, the Salaneys currently own the parking lot across the street, which was used as a used car parking lot, and that's part of the project as well. We need to go before the planning board. We hope, we're expecting to be on the agenda for the July meeting, but we need to obtain the planning board's approval for a special permit for the uses. We're not seeking any zoning relief as such. We're not asking for any setback relief or any relief from the parking requirements. We meet all of the zoning requirements, but our two uses, residential in the central business and medical center in the central business, both are allowed uses but require a special permit from the planning board. But again, we do meet all other zoning requirements. We feel that we have ample parking here on the site for both the residential component, but also for South Cove, the South Cove Medical Center, which we are thrilled to have as part of this project. In fact, we may not have even been here or gone through the procedure this far if it were not for the participation and partnership of South Cove Medical Center. They're a wonderful medical center servicing the Asian community and others, and we feel that they're very important to this project. Again, without them, we probably would not have moved forward with this project. It's going to be a six-story building with South Cove Medical Center on the first floor, 5 floors of residential above, with 103 apartments. But so that's well, one thing I'd add is I think that I see this as a gateway, and it may be hard to call it a gateway to Malden Center, but it is kind of a gateway corner, if you will. And I think when you see the proposal we have here in terms of the attractive building and so forth, I think it's going to really add to this site. The bowling alley, it's great if you're a bowler, but it needs a little refurbishing. And I think to integrate that all of this land, it's an acre and a quarter, so it's a decent piece of land for a community like Malden. But we feel that this would really offer aesthetically a much more attractive approach to this part of Malden for everyone that passes by. So that's my, I guess I'd call it an elevator speech, but it'd be a long elevator, so. But I'll stop here. I have with me the principals of EA Fish, Dan Angelo and Matt Middlestat, and Matt's gonna talk in a few minutes about some more detail, and we have our architects here as well. And we have the folks from South Cove. Gene Welsh is the executive director of South Cove, and he's very enthusiastic about this partnership and opening up in Malden. So with that, I'll ask Gene to come up and say a few words.
Good evening. My name is Eugene Welch, and I'm the executive director of South Cove Community Health Center. You know, for a long time, we've been serving the Asian patients from Malden in Boston. And we know by zip code that almost 3,000 Asians from Malden travel on the Orange Line to get their service in Boston. And every time I bumped into the mayor, he'd say, geez, why don't you have a community health center in Malden? And so when this opportunity came with Matt, we thought it was a great opportunity. We're taking the first floor, which is 11,200 square feet, and we're going to purchase it. So we will permanently own that. We've been in existence 44 years. We're a 330 federally funded community health center. Most of our patients are poor people. We do a lot of interpretation. A lot of people don't realize that unless you can speak English and on a computer, you can't even apply for health care. In Massachusetts, you've got to apply online, and the languages are English and Spanish. Other than that, we spend about $800,000 a year applying for some 32,000 Asians from 120 zip codes that comes to one of our 4 sites. We think it's a great opportunity for both Malden people and for South Cove Community Health Center. We're here for the long haul. We're certainly not going to start and spend $5 million and then leave. It will be a permanent structure just like all our community health centers. I did bring a copy of our annual report that's going to actually be out next week at our corporate meeting. But if anybody would like a copy, I have like 40 copies of it. And it explains some facts about us and who we are. We will try to hire as many capable people as possible from Malden to staff the clinic. Most of our doctors and nurses speaks several languages to deal directly with patient care. We are now finding that the Malden Asian patients are aging. And when I look and see how many 80-year-old people are taking the Orange Line to get their care in Boston, I felt we should do something about it. So we're not asking for any handouts, we're not asking for any freebies, we're ready to spend our money and build a community health center that everyone can use. But we will also have 4 social service rooms there to do interpretation, and hopefully you'll be proud of what we bring to the city. I'm here to answer any questions if you want.
And I appreciate all the things, and we've heard about South Cove a lot, and we value all the things that you do bring to the residents. I think one of the things that we had talked about, it's not necessarily the South Cove, it's the project in its totality. So I think that's where we really want to talk to Matt more, because it's in its totality. It's not South Cove and the 103 apartments. It's in its totality.
So we're sort of bonded at the hip.
Exactly, right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene, for the overview of South Cove. My name is Matt Middlestat, Managing Director of EA Fish Development. And I would like to thank Councilor Crowe for this forum and for the opportunity to engage in dialogue. Certainly we're here as long as needed this evening. Our team is at your disposal to answer questions. In a moment, I'm going to pass the baton to my colleague Dana Angelo, who will talk a little bit more about the specifics, community benefits that we feel add to this development project. I will first pass it off to Jay Szymanski, the lead designer on this project from the architectural team based in Chelsea, Mass. We have a long history with the architectural team. I would say 99% of our projects, we work with them because they're so reputable, grounded here locally in the Boston area. So Jay will talk a little bit about the bricks and mortar. I wanted to start out explaining a little bit about our organization. Not unlike South Cove, we've been around for almost 50 years as a family-owned and family-sponsored development organization specializing in residential and mixed-use projects. We don't move around geographically very much. We've done a little bit of work in Florida, a little bit of work in Rhode Island. Our core area of business is in Massachusetts, in the greater Boston area. We value very much our reputation as being a community steward in the areas that we do projects. It's paramount to us. We're not, it's important to us that our last project, we're able to kind of point people in that direction in new communities that we operate in to serve as example that we're in it for the long haul and we kind of do what we say we're going to do. We have a property management affiliate named PVD Properties that has been active in the Malden community for over a decade. They manage the Heritage property right by City Hall, which is a 62-plus senior property. That is not a property that we own in our portfolio. It is they do a third-party property management for the owner of that facility. But we've drawn on our contacts with PVD to learn, as we have with conversations with Councilor Crowe and many others within the city, to learn as much as we can over a year's worth of time in meetings and conversations to make sure that we come up with a responsible program. Again, we're here to answer questions about the project, about our organization. We can touch on the construction company that, if questions go in that direction, that we would have build this proposed project. But with that, I will pass the mic, so to speak, to Jay Szymanski to talk about the design and
Good evening, my name is Jay Szymanski. I'm an architect with the architectural team. As Matt mentioned, we have a long history working with the A-Fish, and also a long history working in Malden. We just finished the Main Street project, which some of you may know. Just for a quick overview of the site, as far as how it relates to the greater community, our site is here in the middle. T Station is City Hall, so it's geographically located adjacent to the T Station. It makes it efficient for transportation. Malden High School. And as we get into the site itself, this is our project site outlined in red. It's about 52,000 square feet. Also included as part of the project is this small parking lot across Charles Street. The buildings that are on the site now will be demolished. There's 2 buildings there. And what we're proposing is a 6-story mixed-use building. On the ground floor, there is the 11,000 square foot South Cove Community Center and the residential lobby and the 2,000 square foot community space. We're also proposing a parking lot behind the building with a 1-story parking deck above that. Entrance to the parking is here. And again, another annex parking lot across the street. The second floor, again, is largely residential units, shown in blue. There are some residential amenity spaces, a fitness center, a lounge, and an outdoor roof deck here. Again, the upper level of the parking deck. Total numbers are 103 residential units. The mix is studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. 6 stories in height. And this is above the second floor. We have a typical floor which goes from floors 3 through 6. Again, everything blue here is residential units. This is an aerial view of the existing site as it stands now. Again, the 2 buildings that will come down here. Our site extends all the way to Walgreens in the back. Slide this one over. This is the proposed building, again, 6 stories, 5 residential above the 1-story health center and residential lobby. And in the back of this is the parking deck. So again, this is Charles Street in Middlesex. Our entrance will be on the corner here. And the entrance to the community health center is down further on Middlesex.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does that include the restaurant they just opened in the front on Main Street?
No.
No. So that's just to the, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
The site stops at the alley.
The site stops at the end.
Right. So as far as parking goes, we have 147 spaces on site and an additional 15 spaces across, so it's a total of 162 spaces.
Just to add to that, the spaces that are across the street are for the sole use of the employees for South Cove Community Health Center. All of the residential parking spaces are on site, and then there's additional parking spaces for South Cove to be used on site as well. Just to kind of wrap up this part of the presentation, I think that the team members have talked a lot about the program and the design, and Tom had mentioned that we had been in town for about, or the city for about a year and met with a lot of folks, and some of the things that we've heard are, you know, the fact that they really wanted a mixed-use development and something that was going to add, you know, value to the city. And I think that our partnership with South Cove Community Health Center does that. I also think that the inclusion of a community room that can be used by agencies within town and within the city also does that. And lastly, one of the things that we heard was that it was important, affordable housing is important here, and that we had decided to make a payment of $250,000 to the affordable housing group here in the city, even though it's not required within this CBD. So we've done that as well. So those are, I think, really the 3 major benefits of this mixed-use development as part of the whole. As Peg alluded to, it's really, you know, it's not just South Cove, it's not just the residential, but it's all part of one development. We feel like it really will add some benefit to the community as well.
Do you know if there will be additional lights on that particular corner, you know, Down Street?
Charles and Main,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a
Charles.
very high traffic area
Yeah.
during the school year.
lights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any thought to the traffic in the mornings there?
There's been a traffic study that has been submitted to the city and the planning department, and I know that's under review. And so we're just waiting to get some feedback on that. But that, all of the pertinent intersections in and around the site were studied.
Is this gonna be mostly rental units or owner occupied
This would be
condominiums?
100% rental.
Yeah, as we get further along in the planning board process, you may hear the word condominium discussed, because technically the building will be a 2-unit condominium, and South Cove will own outright its space, and then the 103 residential units and the associated common area will be themselves a unit within that 2-unit condo.
No question. Out of the 103 units, do you have a certain percentage set aside for affordable housing?
There is no affordable housing required under this special permit, but we have a lot of the development that we do is affordable housing, some of it tax credit affordable housing, some of it rental assisted affordable housing. So it's something that we know, we think we know a fair bit about. Because there was no requirement to do any affordable housing in this project, it's, not that we offered up $250,000 lightly, but we're aware of the need. So that was our contribution towards that effort.
So it could literally be 103 units that nobody in the city of Malden can afford to rent.
Potential.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing the best we can on the cost side of things. Obviously, we stand behind the first-class product that we develop, but because we're able to utilize wood construction as other projects in the city are, keep all of the parking, although there is a structured parking deck, keeping that above ground. All those things are designed to try to not, have the costs spiral out of control, such as they do in Boston. And our rents are effectively, they will be market rate rents, no doubt, but they will be, half of what they might be in Boston. Somewhere thereabouts.
Often when a project like this takes shape, before the places are finished, 80–90% are already been occupied. Do you have that luxury of having most of these already rented?
Not at this point in time, no. By no means have we received any inquiries relative to potential renters.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, a very simple question. The fitness center that you're advertising, is that strictly for, is it
Residents?
South Cove, or for residents, or will the public be able to access it?
As of right now, it is designed as a benefit for the residents of the building, but we're all ears if there's if there were a strong interest in outside folks being able to utilize it. It's something we're open to talking about. But as of right now, it's conceived as just an amenity for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. This is, very good for our community to, be transparent. I have a couple of questions. One is the proportion of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom units. Do you have that?
There's approximately 19 studios, 39 1-beds, and 45 2-beds.
So the majority is 2-bedroom.
That's the highest percentage of the unit breakdown, yes.
Okay. And when you say $250,000 to affordable housing program, can you talk on that a little bit more? I'm actually not even familiar with where that goes and how that's spent and how does that help our community?
Counselor, in the past, there was, and I believe there still is, an affordable housing trust, which is administered by the city. We certainly will make this donation to wherever the city directs us to make it. We're hoping it will go to affordable housing. But again, in the past, I believe sometimes the money that developers had contributed didn't necessarily go to the Affordable Housing Trust. But I emphasize, wherever the city directs us to make this donation, we'll make it. I know sometimes it's been used for some ward improvements rather than towards affordable housing.
So at no time, yeah, maybe, I figured that out. So at no time, thank you, at no time would the developers consider even a very small percentage of affordable housing? That's really important to our community, it's really important to me personally, so.
Council, they have considered it, they really have, because we had several meetings with city officials, and of course that came up, and they sharpened their pencil and tried to see if the numbers would work. But because of the desire to have a mixed-use development, and that's what we heard louder than anything else, was that the city wasn't looking forward to just a, quote, another box of an apartment. They wanted a mixed use. So with South Cove's partnership with us, the numbers just weren't there for an affordable housing component.
Are there any plans for ancillary changes? But what I mean is any of the pavements around or surrounding the building, will they be revamped? Anything like that, like lights? I think someone mentioned lights around the property unit. Would that be?
Well, normally part of the planning, if the planning board would be so kind as to approve this project, they usually impose a number of conditions. And what I've found is a relatively common condition is that we have to rebuild the sidewalks surrounding the site and take care of those sorts of infrastructure issues. Of course, in addition to water, sewer, that we need for the building. But even the plain fact of life is the construction process would damage the sidewalks so much that they would not be repairable anyway.
Jim, you may want to
Excuse
talk a
me.
little bit about the
Excuse me, may I?
space that's on that first floor and the plantings and.
Sir, we're just gonna finish responding to this and then we hear your question.
So, the street level,
Yeah. So there are some open spaces that are part of the project. So as you walk around the perimeter at the entrance, actually this one shows it better. The entrance is set back such that there's a small sort of plaza in front of the main entrance. There's also a green space here that's created by the intersection of the parking deck and the community room, which is here. And then we also have the roof deck, which is above, on the second floor. And then on the top of the building, there's another roof deck here. So there's a number of sort of outdoor spaces around the project. There's actually patios here for these units, adjacent to the parking deck as well.
and we're calling out for street trees where they would need to be, obviously that will all be under review from the planning board, as well as some paver design around our entrances and sort of along that public space that's in front of the building, and also at the side entrance of the community center.
Sir?
Yes. I hear a lot of talk about what this is the benefits that are gonna come to Malden because of this. But have any consideration been given to what you are destroying? You are destroying a tradition in Malden. By taking that bowling alley, you are eliminating recreation for seniors, youth, middle-aged people, young people who come to this bowling alley and have a good time and benefit the city of Malden because they're mostly Malden people, Everett people, Melrose people. This is a mecca for bowlers, and you're taking that away from us. I hope you give that a serious consideration, that that's not a good thing.
Yes, sir. Point received. We had responded to the property being for sale, so we didn't proactively approach the owner of the bowling alley. We kind of responded to their request for interest, but I hear you loud and clear.
I just wanted to make my point.
Good point.
If and when all systems are go, how long will this project take?
Take to build?
Yes.
Our hope would be that it would take 16 months to build once we start.
Hi, thank you again. I don't need to take it before, but do you have any concept what the rents would be with the studio, the 1-bedroom, the 2-bedroom? Have you calculated that yet, so that your numbers work as your project moves?
Ballpark wise, you know, it's gonna be in the range of, probably 1,500 to 2,200 for studios and 1-beds, and, right around 25 to 2,600 for 2-beds.
A lot of money people are gonna save on parking alone.
I have a question about the entrance to the garage. Where did you point out that that was going to be? Because I know right now, my son works down the bowling alley, and if I pull over to a handicapped spot to drop them off, cars are right up here behind. I don't think it's gonna be safe if it's at the end of the building.
It's not.
It's right after the,
It's right before
it's
the
right
alley.
at the
It's not
alley.
close to the intersection, we tried to keep it.
Very close to the
Yeah, it's right
intersection.
at the alley.
Yeah, but that's still close, because there's like 2 spots and then the alley. So if you're gonna try to get in there, once those cars coming around the corner,
Yep.
it gets dangerous.
It's a very narrow
What-
street.
One thing that the traffic study was able to discuss in detail is that fortunately, like in comparison to the existing bowling alley use where you have real spikes of peak traffic and people coming and going from that facility at the same time, the benefit of both the residential and also the community medical uses is the traffic patterns tend to be spread over just a small amount, spread over a longer period of time. So I guess, you know, hopefully the existing condition will actually be alleviated to some degree by the fact that that use is going to be on site and instead of the building.
Question. Do you have any idea how long it will be before, say, once you get the go-ahead from the planning board in July,
She just had a question.
when the demolition will start and the building will start?
I think Michelle can maybe talk about process and how that plays out, but I think that if we go through the planning board process in July and everything goes very well and we're approved, we would love to try and start this before the end of the year.
I have a couple questions. So, full disclosure, I did meet with the gentleman at the end. I'm Councilor Craig Spatafora. To get my thoughts on it. The South Cove portion of 11,000 square feet, will that be paying taxes to the city?
No, we're a non-for-profit
Fair enough.
charity.
Nope, that's fair enough. I think there's my concern, which I shared with everybody before, is there's 2 separate issues here. One is, I have no problem with the medical use. I have a little problem with no taxes, but that's not their problem. This is a business, and I completely understand that, but what you're doing is you're trying to squeeze in maximum profit on a small piece of property. I don't care what your traffic study says, that's gonna fail. Simply because the traffic study. Because if you go down there right now, and I did, there's already a problem. So nobody here lives in this community. I do, they do. It's gonna be a nightmare. You're not gonna be able to get from that side of Malden to the other side of Main Street within a half hour. So it's not gonna alleviate any traffic. Never mind the entrance, okay? And I know you have plenty of parking and nobody drives, but also the $250,000, while there's a nice gesture, you have 3 kids in that building, there goes the profit in that building for us. Because the school system is already taxed, we're $8 million in the hole, and apartment buildings are killing us, simply killing us. There's no condos, okay, nobody wants to build condos because they take the mats off, which is fine. Every other community around us, Melrose, they're making people do condos. You know why? Because we get more taxes. So as a councilor, we're gonna cut teachers this year, probably firemen and policemen next year, because of our problem. Okay, so I think you're gonna make the traffic a big problem there. You're putting way too much density on one spot. I know it's legal, doesn't mean it's right, you need a special permit. I'm speaking against both of these, because I think this is gonna be a serious problem for the rest of that community. All these residents here and the residents of Malden, that is gonna be an absolute nightmare. And the lights, if you wanna put a set of lights there, it's probably $150,000. So that $250 you gave us is gone. It's gone. Right? You wanna talk about mitigation, we can talk about mitigation, but the long-lasting effects on these buildings, when they come in with these pretty pictures, is detrimental to this community. We have plenty of apartments in the city right now. And there's gonna come a time where there's not gonna be enough people to pay the $1,200 and $2,500. You know what's gonna be in there? Section 8. Okay? And then all of a sudden, the math doesn't work, they don't maintain them as well, and there's problems. I think there's over 3,000 apartments coming online in Malden. Okay? 3,000. We have a serious problem here, and I don't have a problem with the medical use. What I'd like to see is you come in here reasonably and say, yeah, I get 70 units. But you're not gonna do that because it's a math issue, right? I get it, it's a business. But doesn't mean you have to sit here and approve it. I think you need to go back to that drawing board. When we said mixed use too, I mean, you're bringing a great use, nothing against South Cove, right? But we're not gonna make taxes on it. And I hate to sit here and be the guy with the taxes, right? But we're gonna be laying off policemen and firemen next year. We are. Is that, and then you can sit in front of all these residents and tell them, well, you know what, we gave them $250,000, there's $200,000 worth of light work there, there's street improvements we have to do. It's tough. It's a tough decision. And I don't think, I mean, the traffic to me is, I haven't seen a traffic study from a developer come in that says, oh, you shouldn't put this development in. I've never seen one. Never seen one. It's gonna make it a little, you know, in the morning it's gonna be bad, in the morning, in the afternoon it's gonna be bad. This is a problem down there now. That's all I have to say.
I'd just like to respond to the no taxes for South Cove. South Cove is in several cities, and we always, in lieu of taxes, make grants to certain organizations. I've already given, in the last couple of years, two $50,000 grants for stuff to be done in Malden.
No, can I just,
Yeah.
if you were going there, the impact in the city is none. When you're going in a facility that's 103 units, got 2-bedroom apartments, and there'll be no children in there, because that's my favorite line from the developer. There's no kids. There's a building in Malden Square that has a child, okay, special needs, that costs the city $70,000 a year. I think we collect $100,000 in taxes. We're losing money in that building.
Well,
I have no problem with your use. I have the problem with sticking your use, wrapping it around 103 units on less than 2 acres.
Well, we do offer birth control.
Well, we need that. That's a good insight, I like that.
That's not a very helpful
And
statement.
we, I've met with the developers, the project has changed significantly over the last, last year or so. Although the 103, as we've all talked about, Malden took a vote to say we want a moratorium. This is actually in central business, which is kind of was a surprise to a lot of people. And the moratorium does not cover central business. So it fits in that. So that was a concern. There was actually a lot more apartments, and it was a straight up apartment building when it first came. Traffic is a huge concern. Right now, in the morning, it's kind of a joke. I say I live in Malden and work in Malden, and I still complain about the commute. I live just one side of it, and I work down the square, and I gotta plan it correctly, otherwise I'm late, and I'm doing things around the city. So, affordable housing has been a concern. I've said this to everybody that we've talked to, it's not the South Cove part, it is another 103 apartment buildings. People overwhelmingly said, we don't want apartment buildings.
Nope.
And then it's like, and now I've heard, I know that the people have met about this development and said, the South Cove part is sort of a mitigating factor. My concern is, I know there's a couple of other projects people have been talking about that they're gonna add something in that's gonna be another mitigating factor. Either we don't want more apartments, or we do. We allow it, or we don't. And so that's my huge concern. I always say, there's a lot of great things. I know you've worked even to bring the number of 2 bedrooms down. I know you've worked on those. I work for the YWCA for a nonprofit. I couldn't live in any of these apartment buildings. But interesting to Councilor Spatafora's point, where my office is, and where the Heritage parking lot is, that new development, 3 days in a row I watch, and they keep hearing about there's no kids involved, no kids living in those. The bus stops, there's about 8 kids that come out every day, so they are living there. They are coming to the schools, and we have a lot more coming on. So these have been the conversations, and again, the mitigating factor is South Cove. But either we do want apartments, and we're gonna say that the next development's gonna be 500 more apartments, but they're gonna have this, or we don't. So density is a concern. So again, what people have spoke loud and clear, the density is a concern. So either it's not a concern anymore, or it's still a concern. That's why I said, this has been very, and I've said this to everybody that we've worked, this has been a very, very difficult thing, because you have a lot of pluses with South Cove, with the community center, with all the things, and then you got 103 minuses. And so it's been a struggle, for me to, and which is one of the reasons I wanted to have this meeting, so, we all sort of can get on the same page, either get on the same page that this is what it is. And if it was South Cove, let me tell you, I'd bring them in on horses. Either we get on the same page that this is the right development for our ward, for our residents, or it's not.
You said that there's a potential community center. I guess in relation to the gentleman's concerns about just recreational use, what sort of activities or programs are going to be involved in this community center that will benefit the recreation for the public?
I'm sorry, at this point, it's not programmed, it's something that we would manage internally through our property management company and do outreach with organizations within Malden to organize different events and find out what their needs are and work closely with them so that the room is available. And it would, it would come at it from us from an organizational standpoint, and obviously we are making the investment to build that space as well, which is a pretty costly endeavor in itself.
Do your other developments have community centers?
Yes, we did a project in Boston that is most similar to this, and it was completed in 2007, and since then has had the Open and Vibrant Community Center. Basically, interested organizations, whether it's through email communication or a website, express a time and an interested use in the space, and it just gets programmed in. And the use of the space is subject to a nominal cleaning deposit, but it is essentially there as a community benefit for not-for-profit. The charge is minimal and associated with
So what do
cleaning.
they do exactly in the community center? Is there like a basketball court
Oh, it's going to be flex space. I would kind of say it would be similar to this in that it could be programmed with tables. It could have.
Yeah, so in other words, it's just gonna be a reception hall, to have a meeting there, to have a party there. It's not gonna be a community center.
It won't have recreational.
See, I think the problem is, what you guys have to understand is you're taking away a place that has served the city and families of Malden for how many years?
Decades.
Decades. And giving us nothing back in return.
So this is me speaking as a resident now. I think low-key, like, the development is very privatized. So us as families, as public, feel like, this is being, it's now limited to what we're used to. And I think just looking at this proposal for a community center could probably be something that could help us all, or, of course, speaking about the density and just other things that are on our minds that we're concerned about. But again, as a resident, I feel that I understand, and sometimes there's things where us as people that live here, want to be a part of and are a part of. And sometimes, you know, it hurts to take it away. You know, it's like when you're a kid and then, you know, you lose your Spider-Man toy. And you're like, where'd it go? Oh, but sorry, here's something else. I mean, now you kids got iPads and stuff, but who knows, maybe those things.
I hear that as someone that works for a nonprofit, and you know, I hear all the time from the Girl Scouts and everybody else that that needs these kind of spaces. One of my concerns is that's how the schools were built. Is supposed to be community schools, and like they use them to keep these up. And unless it's in the deed on it could be start that way, and then it changes. So, you know what I mean? So, and again, I hear, I was on the school committee, and I think Michael can attest to this, and so can Councilor Di Maria. Do you know what I mean? People want to use the schools, and they were like, built these community schools, and now they're, to maintain that, it's unaffordable for someone to use that. So, do you know, that's one of the things I love, because I hear from the smaller groups, and they need some spaces like that. However, it's a great start, and it's something that might start that way, but it can change quickly. You know, so.
Why can't, instead of having a big apartment building like that, you put South Cove on the bottom and put something like the bowling alley or something above it?
The other way around.
Someplace where you can take families to go and do things. You take the bowling alley away and you've lost a lot of families. And I'll tell you right now, 3 of us go on Tuesday night bowling. We have a league. The whole league is full. Almost every night of the week it's full. During the day, you've got the elderly down there on leaves. You're
Yes.
taking a lot away from this community with this.
But it's the
But I
Ryan
think
family that
everybody-
wants to sell it. The
Yeah.
people who owns the
I know,
bowling
but
alley
people
wants
that are
to
coming
sell
in
it.
to develop
So how you
it,
gonna stop them from selling their property?
they can sell it,
We in
but you could
America.
have a
We-
developer come
You
in
can't-
and do
You can't
something.
determine who they sell it to. If they come in to buy it, the Ryan family is jumping up and down, oh boy, we're happy.
But no,
But
I'm
that's
thinking
because
about
it's
things
free.
for the kids to do. We have
Oh,
no
we
more
need that.
rooms in our
That
schools.
we do need, but I don't know if you can dictate it on how people sell their property.
We can't get
I
another
don't
kid
think
in our
we do
schools
that.
right now. We're overcrowded in the school system.
I know.
And don't get me wrong, the public, health center is definitely very great public service. That's fine.
I got nothing wrong with that. That's perfect.
I'm a Malden resident, graduated Malden High, business owner. My son here goes to a school in Malden. So I'm a big part of this community as well. We do a lot. I own Welland Confluent Tai Chi Academy. I see more than 100 kids each week. And we do parades, we go out and we perform, we do all sorts of involvement. And this is my community. I feel very passionate about this community. I'm also a patient of South Cove Community Health Center. I take the T out, or I have to drive. My parents who are over 80. Do you know why I got so passionate about this? Because my mom this winter walked to the T, took the T, went to South Cove for her appointment, came back, and her niece never got better.
I have
Because
no
she had to
problem with
walk.
that. I like
And
the
so,
idea of
so
that.
here's the thing, there are almost 25% of Asian Americans in the community. 3,000 of them are patients right now. They currently need this service, it's basic need.
Nobody has a problem with South Cove being.
But I'm saying
It's
is
the
that the
apartment.
contribution of South Cove coming in is
Depends
a
on the
big
apartments.
impact, it's a big contribution to this community.
And it depends
It's-
on the apartments
it's-
being built.
It's not, we're talking about tax money, but in lieu of tax money, we're providing services. The 4 social services, the city does not even have a translator at City Hall.
Yeah, but ma'am,
South
I have
Cove
to say,
is
I
gonna
agree with
provide
you.
that.
I agree with you, but if you wanna do a math equation, this is gonna take away services. This building, because they pay a lower tax rate on a residential apartment building than you do as a homeowner. And your child will be affected because as we get less and less money, and we're setting, they get our police and fire department to go there, guess what happens to us? We lose services. If those were condos, we'd be getting almost double the amount of tax revenue. They don't wanna build condos. Nobody has a problem with South Cove. What they've done is they put a sheep in wolf's clothing. They took a nice idea and then wrapped 103 apartments around it. That's the problem with this.
I understand.
And our problem is, I don't have a problem with the apartments, I have a problem with 103. And I'd really like to see condos. Because when you can't get down the street, or you can't get a fire truck down the street, then we're gonna have problems, and it's coming to the point now where 100 apartments here, 100 apartments here, we're on the cusp. And then I'll have 5,000 residents sitting in City Hall asking me, why are you cutting my gym teacher? Why are you cutting the fire department? Why can't I drive down the street? You know why? Because we've been doing projects like this, where the only people that benefit, I'm not talking South Cove, are the developers. That's plain and simple. It is the developers. They make it apartments because the cash flow is better, and that's why they can write a check for $250. If South Cove was going there, you would have every council support. Absolutely. There's not a council I think would do that. We've been trying to get health service in here.
And I think Mr. Welsh was trying to say is that we're coming in without asking for a dime. And South Cove has a foundation, has been giving money. The other thing is that as a resident, I'm seeing all these developments coming in. Did you mention 3,000 units?
Yes.
Well, for the first time, when there's 103 with so much benefit for the community, what happened for the 3,000 units? What did they do for the community?
The South Cove.
What about those units? What happened to those? They also got tax abatements. Like, who made those decisions? Finally, when there's a development, there's 103, yes, 103, no one likes it, but there's so much contribution to this community. There's a lot of oppositions for it, but what about those 3,000 units? Where were those oppositions? And they even got benefits out of it. Who made those decisions? Who are you going to be accountable to? The 25% of the residents who call themselves Mordonians as well? I mean, look at what's happening here. Finally, if there's one more development that gets passed that has community benefits, you don't have to approve the next 500 units. But this 103 that has a lot more, that's adding on to all these other previous developments, who spoke against those developments? Who did? I didn't hear anything.
So can I just ask you a question? I understand what you're saying. Nobody objects to South Cove being there.
But it has a price.
Hold on,
It has
let
a
me
price.
talk. We let you talk. South Cove is going to benefit the entire community. That is obvious. Tell me how the 103 apartments are gonna benefit the community.
In order for South Cove to come in, that has to be the package. If that's not the package, we cannot come in.
So there's no other piece of property in the city of Malden that South Cove can go to?
Counselor, I will work with you
I would work with you
to
too.
get that package
I
for
would work
whatever
with you.
it is,
We
if
just
that's
passed-
the case, but we
We
have
just
not
passed-
been able to do it in the last 5
We
years.
just changed the zoning for medical daycare, right? One of the medical daycare is an Asian community on Commercial Street. They had no problem finding the space. They didn't ask for 103 units on top of it. What I think the problem is, I completely understand why you're passionate about this, right? But at the end of the day, it is not benefiting the entire community. It's actually a detriment when you look at a total package. Nobody is saying that the South Cove is a problem. The only question I asked about the taxes is I just wanted to know if there was taxes coming in. There's other communities around, other buildings around that provide that service. They don't pay taxes. I'm not saying that. But I'm looking at a budget that educates your son, protects your son, and picks up the trash, and makes sure the fire department's there. In 2 years, when all those are cut, that's not gonna help me, ma'am. In all due respect, that's not gonna help me. And if I have somebody tell me I have 40 kids in my classroom, or the fire department had to shut down a fire station, I can't go to them and say, well, we have South Cove. That's the problem we're facing right now. We have $8 million in the hole. And we got in the hole because we probably did too many projects, right? And we allowed too much of this building like this. Okay? And the $250 they offer, I think, is a nice, exceptional deal. If we have to put street lights in, if we have to put a set of street lights in, it's probably $250,000. So it cancels that out. And then if you have 3 or 4 children in that building, they charge $13,000. That's what it costs. The taxes get dramatically dropped. So every project we looked at, we've done that. And if you come to the other, I know you probably don't go to the other meetings, but we've gone to meetings. I've spoken many times about these developments. Many times. Some of them, unfortunately, are by right, meaning there is no special permit. They can come in. Other councils before had made bad decisions. They had the RIO. There was no permit process. You get it by right. So there was never a way for us to say that. You ask every councilor right now, every councilor, what are the biggest complaints they're getting from residents? Traffic, services being cut, and too many apartments. That's what it is. So you're right, we're trying to represent the entire community. I'm not against South Cove. I wouldn't even be against this property, it was a little bit more realistic. 103 units, they're maximizing the space, And the traffic, when you add 50 more cars in the morning now, because they're gonna tell me nobody drives there either. 50 more cars in the morning to get across the city. We all live here. They don't. I can tell you what that traffic thing's gonna happen in the morning. So I completely understand your passion. I like it. You know why I'm passionate? I get 3 kids who go here too. I got 3 kids too. The streets are torn up. We're charging for trash. The recycling nobody's picking up. The schools are in disarray. And next year we're gonna be in bigger trouble. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about. And we're just packing them in. We're packing them in and nobody cares.
We care.
Yeah, you're here.
Just to kind of maybe change the tone a little, Mr. Welsh, could you speak on the services that you offer with South Cove? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar, but what do you actually offer?
Yeah, we say it's one-stop shopping. I mean, we'll have adult medicine, OBGYN, pediatrics, an eye doctor, and then if you need referral, we can refer you for our dental clinics, you know.
So is there, I'm sure there's drugs as part of this, you offer?
Well, we as a 330 federally funded health center, we can run a 340B pharmacy. So there's 2 pharmacies there, you know, CVS or Walgreens. So we could do it with either one. And it's a program where the federal government allows them to buy drugs at 40% of the cost, and then the people that are the poorest. Yeah.
And it's Asian specific?
Well, it's not Asian specific.
No.
I mean, we take federal and state money. We can't discriminate against anybody. We welcome everybody. I mean, I'm not Asian, and I run the place. I'm not Asian, or am I confusing you? And I use the health center for my service. You know, I've been there almost 20 years, and I'm still walking. You know, so I think we give quality service. We can get you access into hospitals. We do all the interpretation. I mean, there's many hidden services. You know, as it is now, we're going to spend over $5 million. Then it's going to take us another $1 million to staff it. If nobody goes through it or not, you need to hire doctors and nurses, and those doctors, you know, they all say they're doing it for the mission, but they're really doing it for the money, believe me. I fight with them every day. So, I mean, it's a big investment for a community health center.
Is it gonna be,
Go ahead.
sorry.
I'm sorry, what kind of staffing, like how?
Well,
what are you looking
there'd be medical people.
How,
you know.
what was the number
Good, good,
about?
sure.
I can actually answer that. We did a
Okay.
case study. So it's like 11,000 square feet, and we have 3 pods set up. One's pediatrics, one's adult medicine, one's GYN, and there's an optometry room. At best, at the busiest, we've got 3 physicians on at one time, 1 pediatrics, 1 OB, 1 adult. Maybe an optometrist would be 2 or 3 times a week. Typically, for per physician, we would have a nurse and 2 medical assistants, and then we would have some check-in staff. To start off, it would be somewhere between 18 and 24,
Right.
you know, if we were that busy. That was a great scenario.
Okay, thank you.
May I speak as a board member of South Cove? I know that the Community Health Center in New York City, it's called the Charles Wang Community Health Center, but it actually serves a very, very diverse community, not just Asian American. So given that Malden is one of diverse, our high school right now as it stands is the most diverse in the whole state. South Cove Community Health Center is not just for the Asian American community. It's actually for the whole Malden community. That's one. 2 is that just a few months ago, South Cove was actually Senator Elizabeth Warren got in touch with us, and we met with her, and she called us the jewel of what we do in Community Health Center. We are, I mean, I'm going to go back to have Mr. Welsh speak about how well recognized we are, and we're best practiced by Stanford University.
Stanford University. We were one of the 8 best practices serving the poor people in the country by Stanford University.
Do you provide substance abuse
We
services?
would provide, you know, we have a behavioral health department.
We have a behavioral health department at our other facility at South Street and one in Quincy. This is not large enough to provide that service. We would have to refer to a local provider.
So if I may add, I mean, I spoke as an Asian American because, you know, that's just what I got born into, and as a patient, and for my parents and for my son. But as a Malden resident, this is a community health center for everybody, for the whole city. This is not just for the Asian, the 3,000 patients that I'm talking about right now. So in lieu of tax money and everything else, we're talking about, again, basic medical needs. And when we were applying for having a community health center here in Malden, well, Medford doesn't even have one. So we got granted for, what's that called? Ms. Love?
To be a 330 federally funded health center.
330 federal funded health center. So we receive federal
Can you,
money.
what's a 330?
Well, it's a program with HRSA in the federal government, and we get so much money a year per patient. And in the first few years, until we grow in Malden, we're actually going to lose money, because the patients that come from Malden to Boston are already counted in our UDS figure. So we cannot get any more money on our 330 grant by coming to Malden until we go over the number of patients that are now listed on that grant in Malden. But what it does for us, to be honest with you, it gives us the 340B pharmacy cost, and it also gives us federal malpractice insurance. So our staff is 100% covered by the federal government in unlimited coverage for malpractice insurance.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
Are you gonna have urgent, like an urgent care
No.
walk-in, it's just appointment only?
It isn't appointment only, it can be walk-ins. And we do have walk-ins on every day, but an urgent care would be a step above this, where, you know, where you would need
Sutures or
Yeah.
something.
And so you won't do that
We
then?
do not do that, it's primary care model.
What are the hours?
They run around 8:30 to 6 o'clock. One night we stay open to 7 or something like that. It depends on when we get to the community. You know, if it's a community where you're trying to take care of the working poor and they want different hours. We're open every Saturday. In Boston, we're even open Sundays. You know, and when we're not open, we have somebody on call. Now with electronic medical records, if you call in and you have you give a complaint, we can look up your record and see what we've been treating you for, and either say, well, you know, there'll be somebody here at 7:30 tomorrow morning. You'll be fine tonight, you know, or stop taking whatever medication you're on that's causing it. Or, yes, you should go to the emergency room. We feel that you should not wait till the morning. So it's triaging people too.
Ma'am in the back.
Yes, thank you. My parents grew up in the city of Malden strictly their entire lives, right through high school and college. My dad's father bowled in that bowling alley. But what I want to point out right now is that within a quarter of a mile, you have Cambridge Health Alliance, who has a similar facility and is expanding currently and has the space to expand. Now, many of us, when Malden Hospital closed down, had to go in search of other medical facilities. We didn't have a choice. We had to go find something else. And CHA offered an opportunity. There is lots of land there that could be a better location because the street is wider. The other thing is that within a half a mile, you have a Doctor's Express, which unfortunately does not service Mass Health clients. It's strictly cash up front, you pay when you walk in the door, but if you've got a cut in your hand and you need stitches or you need an x-ray, you can walk right in. So I'm wondering, having another health service unit within the confines of 1 square mile, what is the benefit for that?
Well, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and talk bad about any other health center.
I'm not suggesting you do,
that's in
sir.
Malden.
I'm
People
asking
can
what
walk
you're
with
gonna
their
add
feet,
that they don't
you
have.
know. You know, those 2,000 or 3,000 Asians have been traveling for the last 20 years to Boston. So if there was such great health care for those people, they wouldn't need to take the subway and travel. You know,
Okay, excuse me, sir, but I have to travel to Somerville for services. I have to travel to, I'll be having to travel for the bowling to Woburn, who will get my money, and to Wakefield. I cannot go to a hospital in this area. I have to either go to Everett or Cambridge or Somerville under my plan. Now, I've had to make a lot of changes in my lifestyle to be able to accommodate this. And you're talking a difference between 25% of the population and 75% of the population. I would like to see something that's better suited to 50+% of the population. That's not duplication in that small area. Thank you.
Well, we don't know much about Cambridge Health Alliance, and we don't have information, nor are we, but, so, to Eugene's point,
Excuse me.
the one-stop shopping, provide the convenience for the whole community. And I think that it's not just for the 3,000 Asian patients right now, it's for the entire Malden community who can potentially become patients when they choose to. Now, Cambridge Health Alliance has been around and they've been in the community and all that, and I fully respect them.
And they've expanded with regard to bilingual, interlingual, whatever.
But at the same time, this is something that is just not connecting. So that's why we've been going for so long. And I think having more options is better than being limited to no option and you just have to go to that one place.
Have all options been exhausted? Have you talked to the CHA? I mean, they have place, they have space, they have rooms. Why can't you open a facility there? Why do you have to destroy what's here? Just so the developers can make a profit.
It's the
And
owners
Mr.
that's
Ryan.
making
The
a
conversation
profit.
is, right
It's the
now,
owners
it's really
that's
about the
making a profit.
development and
It's the people that you like, Ryan's family. They wanna make the
I think we all
money.
agree that South Cove, it has a lot
Somebody's gonna buy it.
of pluses. And again, if South Cove was
Anybody else?
itself, it would be wonderful. Half of you would not have come tonight.
And I wouldn't have to
You
work
can
so
talk to
hard.
Ryan.
And I know my.
I mean, it would have been so easy to
It
come
would have been
in
easy,
and we don't
I do
need
think
anybody to
people,
support us, but
are saying that,
that's the reason why I gotta fight so
and
hard.
not anything against EA Fish, because let me tell you that this development has changed over the past year and a half, and Council Spatafora and I met with them probably a year and a half ago when it was a straight up apartment building. But we have to really look at this in its totality. One of the reasons is we put special permits in for a reason. So it's not a by right. And so, we love the South Cove part, and we can talk all the things that South Cove is gonna bring, but we have to then be realistic that it also brings 103 apartments. And either you voted for a moratorium and you say, well, maybe not.
That's another consideration.
That's the part, I think, and it's not the South Cove part, and I understand that now is a package deal and they're, joined at the hip. And I think people are saying let's help see if South Cove, again, I don't wanna be, kicking the EA Fish to the curb, but, if we could find a place, a home for South Cove. But again, it is really, and at this point, it's actually EA Fish and South Cove will be a tenant once they buy the thing, but they're not in the planning process at this point, I don't believe,
If I just may address that, Cap.
when the plans go through, it is for a commercial space, and although it's been a medical.
Since we've started collaborating with Gene and his team and and Nelson, we've had several charrette-type meetings at the architectural team's office, and so decisions that have been made for with respect to the green space and open space and entrances and parking structure and all that have been made, and I'd let Eugene weigh in on that, have been made in conjunction. So, and they will own the space, you know, they'll be a long-term owner.
The plans, are they strictly, they cannot be changed? For example, something that I'm hearing, I'm a new resident, I've been here 1 year.
welcome.
Malden. Thank you.
Meetings get better.
No, they don't.
I live right across there at 260 Main, and I walk to the T, I walk everywhere, so there's that one thing that I do not know is the traffic that the gentleman over there.
Very small.
But one thing that I'm just hearing is, if this apartment can be a mixed use of condominiums as well as a rental unit, then potentially we could address the tax dollar that I'm paying. I own a condo and I'm paying a huge amount of taxes. And to this point, I would expect, there are two things, that taxes obviously would increase, and people living there would live in as a community. You know, it's not like someone renting and moving out.
Yep.
So, are you sticking with that plan? You cannot change that plan at all, or is there any flexibility?
So we have experience with mixed use with residential and commercial community space, but also specifically with condos and rentals. So we kind of bring both tools to the kit. We, in our professional judgment, and that's up for debate, how strong that professional judgment is, I believe rentals to be the most viable program. There is, down the road, nothing prohibiting this building from being converted to a condominium structure. And in fact, it's important to us to build the systems and the finishes and the amenities in the space to support that, if that's something that we're to occur down the road.
But I've had a lot of these conversations, we've talked about affordable housing, can we make them condos? And so is there a flip side? Can we start with condos and then that doesn't like down the road? Hey,
Yeah, no,
all options are wrong, I feel like
No,
at this point.
and Counselor, I appreciate you acknowledging that the plan has been iterative, that, you know, and we don't take offense to you throwing us under the bus on the other stuff. But oh, sure.
No, that's good.
Gentleman here wants to speak up.
Just as a ballpark.
But we did take all those comments to heart, and this is the viable program. This is something that we can actually move forward with now, and
Well,
the
planning
alternative.
board says you can move forward with it.
Well, proposed being able to move forward.
I think
Thought
the
about
gentleman over
reducing the
here.
amount of units. Now listen, I know you're in a business, right? But you have to realize where we sit as a council and community, right? We are busting at the seams, and we realize we are a very attractive location based on our proximity to Malden, right? Boston and the T. But the issue really is becoming a quality of life. We're thinking about passing a residential parking because our streets are infiltrated, because everybody tells me when they build these units, and I'm glad to see the gentleman that doesn't have a car, but unfortunately, as we built out, actually I'm not, because he paid the excise tax. As he, I just don't want you to drive it. As we built out this RIO, and this is not your fault, it's probably the council's fault. We put a residential overlay in there to attract businesses. It's kind of backfired, to be quite honest with you, okay? And you're coming at the tail end of the backfire. You're the last guy to the party, they're gonna shut the door, right? So the problem is we've allowed these, you know, you made the comment of, why weren't you speaking against them before? There was this overlay that was put in to attract this, and we've got a lot of restaurants downtown now, a thriving area, building a new thing. But our streets are full. And I know it's only 103 units, but I can tell you right now, you put 103 units there, guess what's gonna be across the street? They're gonna wanna put in 103 more units across the street. Because we have allowed that central business district to grow. And as that's grown, so is the traffic. And I know I kid around about the taxes, but as a counselor, our next 3 years, our pro forma is awful. Is awful. And I'm not knocking you guys. I know it's a better cash flow thing for the residential. I work in the finance. I work for a company that does non-trader REITs, I know the deals, right? But I just wish somebody would say, it's a business, this is why we're doing it. I would love, I mean, your attorney knows, we wanna see condos. It's a better tax base for us, we can cover our cost. You put an apartment in with this many units, you're bound to have, especially with 2 bedrooms, you're bound to have a couple children. We like children, even though your tenant could have, birth control, right? We can't afford to build another school.
And self-control.
And self-control. I mean, you have to look everything in totality, as we're saying. We're not necessarily, I mean, yeah, it's a nice project, right? But there's a lot of nice projects coming here. It's just a matter of we're squeezing all this into an area that the quality of life of these residents are going to be tough. Again, not the South Bay.
Well, I think too, to Councilor Spatafora's point, even recently, it's like, oh, 120, but very recently at the Board of Appeals, it was like, well, we only want to put 22. And then someone else says, oh, no.
But that was 22 on top of 100.
Right. But we only want to add, so when we keep this adding, it might be 100, but people keep looking at these and saying like, all right, we're just going to add a few more here. We're just going to add a few more here. And I think to myself, we finally said like, hold it. We got to stop adding a couple here and a couple there, which is really why the moratorium kind of, came into play. And when that was even taking place, we probably should have, thinking about it now, done the whole thing without central business. Again, it's not, let me tell you, I would put you in my yard. I would love something.
May I put an image in everybody's head? You know how when you take the tea, and then you're like, hold the door, and then you got right there just before the door closes and you squeeze in and somehow people make room? We would like to be that last person going through the door because we're bringing a community health center. After us, shut the door, fine. Gotta get us in because we're serving the entire community.
You said after us, shut the door.
But the planning board has to, and the community, the governmental leaders can do that. And you can also leave that door open. Who's pressing that button? Let me ask you that. Who's pressing that button?
Well, I think the bottom line is gonna be, Ryan's is selling, no matter what. No matter what, if it's not this, it's gonna be something else.
That's true.
So, what?
And believe me, I appreciate that. They want to sell. I know Mr. Ryan is ready for retirement.
Yeah, he's
and
done.
wants it, so.
But if it's
But
not
one of the things
retiring.
that we did put in is that it has to be by special permit. So we can't say the doors are shut and the train is moving on. So it does have to some stopgap measures.
So what else would go into that space when he's selling?
Exactly.
That's gonna actually serve the whole community?
Who's to
said
say
this
it's gonna
to
be
Dana,
something better?
Listen, if you came a couple of years ago, I would have been like, the queen of the world, because there was nothing going on. It is a tired area, and we do want to figure out some development. I would love South Cove just to go in there by themselves. Again, not to throw.
Why not?
Because it does need some revitalization. It absolutely.
We have to share that we did approach Ryan. And he
Okay.
was, we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford it. So what will go, if we don't go in and he's selling, what will go in there?
He must be gonna
What will
retire
go in
to
there
the
that's even
Riviera.
better than this?
That's my point. If
Maybe
it's not
50
this,
unit
what's it gonna be?
condominiums with you guys on the bottom, 50 units
Well, I mean,
condominiums.
the other thing too is, I think what we have to get past is simply, for me, right, is I would love to see condos, I'd like to see less units, but also, we gotta talk about the infrastructure, all right? Because I know there's $250,000 that we can earmark to mitigation, that's what we call, the councils call mitigation, that all these apartments in the square, right, used. Every council's mitigation was taken out of their account this year to balance the budget.
Right.
So all that money that we were supposed to use for affordable housing and fixing sidewalks, we didn't use for that because the mayor needed to balance the budget. Okay? So that money is earmarked for that, doesn't mean we have to do that. Because then we have to, it's that same debate. Do I cut a teacher and a fireman, or do I plant a tree? And I know it sounds silly, but that's what we did this year. I had $30,000 in that account, gone. And that money was supposed to be used for water improvement and stuff like this. But you put a development like this, of this size, because you say, what else could go there? You put something like this, it has an impact in that area, a good one, but also is a negative, right? But if you have to put a set of traffic lights in those corners, That's $300,000, $250,000. Where does that money come from? I mean, you gotta work, and, you know, we got a light on the corner of Summer Street and Pleasant Street right now that they don't work in the train station. To fix those lights, it's $40,000. We can't afford to fix them. I don't know where we're gonna get $300,000 to put the lights in here. So it is a negotiation, right? So you put in 100 more units there with this, it has an impact on the traffic. My opinion, negative. I'm sure every resident goes down that corridor every day, it's negative. In order to mitigate that, you need to put in infrastructure. The city cannot afford infrastructure. The $250,000 is a one-time payment. If there's children in there, if there's medical, I mean, that is other things. As a council's been here for 10 years, I don't look at the first 2 years. I look at the length of that property going forward. That's what we need to do as a community. You look at other communities around us, Cambridge, Somerville, they look at these things in totality. You don't have enough parking, you're paying into a fund as long as you're there. Do you know why? Because you gotta hire a teacher, you don't hire him for 1 year, you hire him forever. You hire a fireman, you hire him forever. The problem doesn't go away after the first 2 years. And I'm not knocking the development, I think it's good. But 103 wrapped around this is a little bit, right? And if we do approve it, it goes down, I would like to see less, but I'd like to discuss how you're gonna support us in this area as far as not lights. I mean, lights are important, but beautification, flowers die. I wanna see wider sidewalks, better traffic lights.
Who has the final say, the go-ahead? Who gives them
The special
the
permit
stamp
goes to
of
the planning
approval?
board.
Planning board.
So once they go to the planning board, if the planning board says yes, it's a done deal.
Yeah, but the residents and the council is impacting the planning board.
Does the community get to go to the planning
Yeah,
board and?
So again, this is just sort of like to kind of air some of these things out and, you know, give them the opportunity to see what the concerns are before they get to the planning board. Then there is a public hearing that the planning board will, and everybody will be notified, especially the abutters, but I'll make sure the whole ward is notified. And at that point, they will do a presentation, the pluses and the minuses, and then people have the opportunity to speak for or against. And then the city planning sort of gives some recommendations, and then, so you'll have another opportunity to do that. This was really informational, so people really see the totality of, you know, what we're talking about.
And then after this meeting, I think you should let the council know. I mean, if you say, hey, I like the condo idea, I'd like to see 80 units, can they put in can they pay for the traffic lights? These are things that you sit down with the developer and say, you know, listen, we're not saying no, right? Because we think it could have a positive impact. But we want to come to a compromise, and it's nice for the developers to come here with their attorney and South-Bay to hear our concerns. And we hope we get a compromise before that meeting, and if not, we go to the meeting, and then sometimes we go to another meeting. So, but the point is, this is good to do this dialogue, because you don't want to do this on a Wednesday night and spend 12 and a half hours there only to come back.
I have a question.
We have a couple hands that have been waving in the back.
With the South Cove idea intact, now that you've heard this negative feedback about what you plan to do, is there a possibility that you might consider changing and maybe think of something else that would maybe affect better the families, the residents in the city? Like some other kind of recreational thing that families can, you know, use as a replacement to the bowling alley?
No, don't replace the bowling alley.
Bowling alley. The bowling alley plus South Cove plus other.
But you understand what I'm saying? Is there something other than just apartments? Because as a resident of the city, I've seen a lot of things go away from the city that families used to use. There's nothing really free for families to do, you know, to take their kids to. There's nothing. They used to have a skating rink. There's no skating rink. You used to have movie theaters. There's no more movie theaters. There's really, you're taking and taking, but you're not giving back or replacing. And I just hope that maybe you would consider something to include the entire city, other than this, like, the medical part, which I can appreciate that. And I know that's needed, but what about the rest of the community? That, you know, you might have this opportunity to affect more people than just this medical issue.
Yes, ma'am, we're listening, very intently, to all the comments this evening, and, when we do get before the planning board, the proposal that we present at that point will be what, in our professional opinion and along with our partners, what we feel is viable. But, yeah, we're here in earnest with our ears open.
Excuse me?
Go ahead.
Peg, I have a question. I apologize to the developers. We right now have Upper Pleasant Street, as it would be called, from Washington Street on the south side, completely empty. And we haven't seen anything for the proposed plans for that, except for some residential units. Now, I think this definitely has bearing on this, even though that's in the downtown area, which the moratorium holds.
No.
Well, the moratorium holds they can still build residential until the 1-year term is up.
Right.
Now, the
Well,
movement.
and then after it's over.
Okay.
And we are working on doing a study that you kind of have more of a plan.
Okay.
That's what happens with the.
Well, the fact that, as we've discussed, Charles Street, at that particular point, that one block between, is it Middlesex, did you say?
Middlesex.
Middlesex and Main Street is already a traffic problem because of parking, the auto place, the parking, the used car sales, which is now part of this whole program. And
Yeah,
I
what
wonder
they
why this,
call the Solani building.
why this particular South Cove selection couldn't necessarily be included in that downtown stretch.
Yes.
I mean,
Bring it-
as a person who votes in this community, I have got no knowledge. I've had no knowledge of this. Except the fact that the bowling alley is closing and we have to relocate bowlers. I've had no notice of anything as a citizen that is happening unless, I'm sorry, I'm busy on Tuesday nights. It's the only night city council meets. And it's really tough to hear things after the fact, and we already have enough residential buildings going up as I watch the one across from Stop and Shop going up.
Right.
And I know that having been trying to get a Section 8 because I'm in the low income, actually I'm $10 above the low income category, and I cannot afford your studio apartments at all. Couldn't even begin to touch them.
It would seem to me that we have to find another buyer that would satisfy Mr. Ryan and keep the bowling alley. But where are we gonna find somebody with that kind of deep pockets? And here we have South Cove with their developers who are offering to buy it, but they're not what we want.
And this is, again, why we try to have meetings like this, just to have everybody's input. I'm always available, we can talk, and I think, the developers are, I'm sure South Cove would be, welcome anyone.
Absolutely. Let's make it a recreational corner. South Cove as the
But again, I'm
medical
a property
facility.
owner, so, you gotta talk to Dan Ryan.
Yeah.
He's got
He's
two
the
other
one.
facilities. He's not retiring. He's chosen not to maintain the bowling alley.
We need,
He's the owner. He's the owner, right?
yeah.
By default.
Oh, well, he owns it though, so he can do what he wants.
That's right, he's selling it.
His
Do we
property.
have- do we have any more questions,
Yeah, he can do
for
what he
the
wants.
developers
That's a
on,
good point.
not maybe what, what the Ryans might wanna do with that, but really about this?
I have a question for the council people. Now, we have City Hall coming down with all that development
Yes.
at one side of the town. Now you wanna start developing this side of town? That's gonna make a big headache moving around anywhere within the city, I believe. Has anybody looked into that?
I work on that side, and I live in Malden, work in Malden, still complain about.
Yeah, but if you do this, you're really screwing the whole downtown area up.
No, the bowling alley.
Just don't know if you've thought of that.
Well, again, it's a contractual agreement between the seller and the buyer. So the council, if there's no special permitting, we really don't get involved. It's the buyer and the seller. But I do believe that, Fish,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
consultants, I forget your
No,
first name.
EA Fish or Fish, anything is fine, anything is fine.
I think, I believe you want to do what's right for our community, so I'm hoping that you're really listening and maybe going back to the drawing board and tweaking some numbers prior to the planning board meeting, because I believe, that it's important to partner with our community as you are building in our community, so I think everyone's spoken, and I thank you for South Cove, and and for all the efforts that you have brought to the table as well, and there is certainly a need, definitely a need in our community. We have to support our diverse communities.
When is the planning board meeting?
It's not scheduled at the moment, when they'll be on the planning board agenda, but once that is scheduled, the abutters will definitely get notice, and I'll make sure that the ward has notice.
It's being processed, it could be scheduled as early as July 13th. That's the next available
That's why she's
date.
I thought I heard you say something about there would be another public meeting, that would be.
No, that's the public hearing. This is just a
The public
public informational meeting.
The public
The public hearing is really when you can give testimony whether you're for or against the project, and they take that into totality, and then they'll make the decision.
And that's before or after the planning board meeting?
The planning board hearing is the meeting that the
Right.
council is talking about.
And how's the motion determined? Is it a majority vote, or there's
They would need 6 votes of the 9-member board to grant a special permit.
I'm sorry.
So all of Malden right now, they're not building any more apartments? Is there a moratorium on building more apartments here?
The moratorium applies citywide for all multifamily, which is 5 units or more, but it exempts out the central business zoning district, which this property is located in that district. It also exempts out the road quarry reclamation redevelopment district, which is over on the other side of Route 1.
So it's basically the square, and then the Rose Quarry, which is on the other side of Route 1, like
That's
Charles.
so, okay.
Information, what was the original plan before the, prior to the 130 units?
103 will be pushing it.
I'm sorry, 103.
You're testing our memory, but,
You just heard 130, that's why.
There was no commercial space in the building whatsoever. It was 100% residential, a majority of which was 2-bedroom units. It was through conversations with Peg and Craig and other folks within the city that we actually made the changes that we made, that we were able to meet with.
So there wasn't a solid number of units before?
I forget what it was. There was a solid number of units, and that, again, I have to give them credit that it was like, you have to do a mixed use, and then even when they came back, they did have more.
Yeah, it might have been 130.
And it didn't include the other property, it was the Solani building, so it was building around it, and it didn't include which the Solani owns, they own, the big plus is they'll get rid of like a used car lot, but that's all right. That parcel across, so they did go back, and we had those conversations, Council Spafford and I have met a few times, and so it has changed a lot, and I have to give them credit that they, go as far as they can. We've had a lot of these conversations. And I'm hoping that from hearing, not just from me and what I hear from the neighborhood, but hearing from the neighbors themselves will, again, I think they do take it in earnest and see what kind of changes can be made.
Thank you.
All right, so, I believe it or not, Michelle Romero, if you have any other sort of technical questions, again, she won't be able to answer questions about this property specific or this project, because it is before the planning board. But chairs are cards. I thought I had cards with me, so I'll give you a card. The rest of them, most people know who I am and how to get in touch with me. But I do welcome your feedback, and I will make sure that, that, you know, the board and the abutters get notified when it is planned, scheduled for the planning board. And I thank you, I thank EA Fish and South Cove, Michelle, councilors, school committee member, Rummy, and everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,